pretty much pre-professional musicians who are around my age or maybe a few years younger. So I was really lucky to get the commission for NYO because it meant that it was going to result in a recording as well. And that's really half the battle when you're dealing with the Juno Awards is having a good quality recording that's out there. So that really worked out well in my favor.
And there's a lot of interesting things I want to talk about, but I guess one of them is that I read that this was your first orchestral composition.
Yes. I'd written a few little short things, but never really a full orchestra piece before. I'd written for wind ensemble and for brass choir, but this was the first time that I tackled full orchestra. And I guess I didn't have the luxury of being in school and having to write a piece where I could take it in to a teacher and rework it and maybe write another one, and then eventually it would get performed and out in public. I kind of had to grow up really fast, is what it felt like. Because right away I had a commission that was going to be toured, it was going to be recorded, so there was really no room for error. So it put a bit of pressure on me for sure. I definitely felt like it was a difficult commission, but at the same time it was such an opportunity that I made sure that I was going to write something good. So I definitely felt like the pressure helped me compose in this case.
Yeah, I'm going to ask about the pressure. And did you have any models when you were writing for orchestra? There's certain orchestral composers that you admire?
We heard about minimalist music, and that's certainly an influence for me. Steve Reich is a huge influence for me. I actually borrowed. He has some clapping music that comes up in a lot of his music, and I really like the percussion textures of Steve Reich's music. So I have a section in my orchestral work which incorporates some of that. There's some clapping that the percussionists do, and I found it added a real freshness to it. John Adams is another composer that I really admire, and so there's a bit of that minimalist pulse music in there as well. I also, Vaughan Williams and Debussy and Britten, I like a lot of those composers that were active maybe around the early 20th century that really did some interesting melodic and harmonic writing. And so I guess what I was doing was taking their harmonic sensibilities and maybe adding a bit more of the rhythmic sensibilities of the minimalist, and that's kind of my style, I guess.
Okay. I was just going to ask about that. You say that's kind of your style, so is that sort of characterized in sort of more general terms?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty early on in my career. Like, it does take a while for a composer to find their voice, and I feel like I'm not there yet. But what I've tended to write has been melodic stuff that's tonal, that has these textures that the minimalists have been developing, and I like melodies, and I like to write good themes that develop, and all of these are little traits that tend to find their way into everything that I write. So I guess that would be my voice if you were to take those traits and put them together. And so certainly the Dreams of Flying piece encompasses all of those traits.
I'm wondering, has it led to any other orchestral missions?
Not so far. It did lead to some, it's tough to get orchestral commissions, but it did lead actually directly to a couple of other commissions with a festival in Barrie, Ontario called Colors of Music. And one of them is actually the duo we just heard, Duo Concertante. They're going to be performing at that, and I'm going to be writing a piece for them for that festival. And the other commission for that is a women's choir piece. And that was a result of the organizer who heard the premiere of my piece and decided, okay, I want to commission this person for this festival. And I'm hoping, down the road as word gets out, certainly this nomination will help the whole disability thing, but certainly I hope that it'll result in more opportunities to write for orchestra down the road.
Yeah. Well, you certainly seem to have no lack of opportunities, because you're mentioning the Barrie Festival, and you're also composer in residence at the Church of the Redeemer.
Yeah, that's a church in Toronto where I've been a choral singer my whole life, and recently I've been doing that professionally as well as being a writer. And so I was in a different church, but I just moved to the Redeemer, and as part of being in the choir there, I'm also the composer in residence. So I just finished the mass setting for that church, which will be premiered next month in Toronto. singer named Saida Baba Taliba, who's a Toronto singer that I play with. And she, as it turns out, is also a backup singer for Johnny Reed, who's performing at the Junos, and he's up for Artist of the Year. So she's going to be in town this weekend, so I'll get to hang out with my friend from Toronto.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting blend of skills you have and interests, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your music. Maybe just a few more words on concertino for tuba.
Yeah, now this is, it's only 3 years old, I guess, this piece, but at the same time, it feels like an old work to me because a lot's changed for me since I wrote it. I was still in school at the time at Indiana. I wrote it for my teacher, Dan Parentoni, who asked me to write him a concerto. He hasn't gotten around to performing yet. I hope that he does someday, but in the meantime, I've been happy to have Karen performing it. I've known Karen from before, back when she was in the Toronto area. And this piece, it's about, I think, about 12 minutes long, and basically what I was trying to do was to tackle the traditional concerto form, which, fast movement, slow movement, fast movement, and they're tied together by little cadential sort of passages. Some of the material from the first finds its way into the third and is recapped, and the third movement is actually a pretty strict rondo if you actually sit down and analyze the thematic material. And I'm not as interested these days in the traditional models, but this was a chance for me to really try and get a handle on this traditional model of the concerto for the tuba. And being a tuba player, I was pretty comfortable writing for the instrument, so I made sure that I could write something that would be effective and a good showpiece for